There's this guy. Let's call him Jay. Jay is not your average boyfriend. He's the kind of guy who plans dates 3 weeks in advance. He remembers the small stuff. Her coffee order. The name of her childhood dog. The exact way she likes her fries. On paper, Jay is the perfect boyfriend. But here's the thing about perfect on paper. Paper burns. Jay and his girlfriend Mia had been together for almost 2 years. 2 years of inside jokes, late-night calls, and fights that lasted 10 minutes because neither of them could stay mad. It was the kind of relationship that made their friends say, "You guys are going to get married, right?" And Jay thought the same thing. In fact, he was already saving up for a ring. Not a huge diamond, but something real. Something that meant, I'm not going anywhere. But there was a small crack in the wall that Jay refused to see. Mia had never been single. Not really. Before Jay, there was someone else. And before that guy, another one. She jumped from relationship to relationship like a kid jumping between moving trains. She didn't do it on purpose. She just didn't know how to be alone. Jay knew this. He just didn't think it mattered, because, in his mind, she was his. End of story. And that's where the trouble started. One night, they were at a party. Nothing fancy, just a backyard thing with fairy lights and cheap beer. Mia was laughing with her friends. Jay was by the grill, flipping burgers, feeling like a king because his girl was the prettiest one there. Then a guy walked over, tall, good jawline, the kind of guy who looks like he plays guitar, even if he doesn't. He started talking to Mia, just small talk. How do you know the host? You work downtown, right? Innocent stuff. Jay didn't think much of it at first. But then the guy leaned in a little closer, and he asked a question that would crack everything open. Do you have a boyfriend? Now, most people would say yes. Straight up. No hesitation, especially if your actual boyfriend is standing 20 feet away with barbecue sauce on his shirt. But Mia didn't say yes. She smiled, looked down at her shoes, and whispered, "Not yet." The guy raised his eyebrows, laughed a little, took a step back, like he'd just won something. Meanwhile, Jay froze. The spatula in his hand stopped moving. The sizzle of the burgers faded into nothing. All he could hear was those 2 words playing on a loop. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Here's why that answer is so dangerous. Saying no closes the door. Saying yes locks it. But not yet? That leaves the door wide open. It says, I'm not taken right now. It says, maybe later. It says, keep trying. And in one whisper, Mia had handed a stranger a key that Jay thought only he had. Let me pause here and tell you something important. This isn't just a story about jealousy. This is a story about what happens when someone feels like they own another person. Jay wasn't angry because Mia lied. She didn't lie. Technically, she told the truth. She didn't have a boyfriend. She had Jay. But in that moment, in her head, there was a difference. And that difference cut deeper than any lie ever could. Psychologists call this Relationship. Entitlement. It's when one person believes they have total rights over their partners. Attention, loyalty, and even their words. Jay felt entitled to A. Yes, he felt entitled to Mia shutting down that conversation immediately. And when she didn't, his brain didn't just get sad. It got scared, and scared turns to anger faster than anything else. Here's a stat for you. A study from the University of Texas found that 85% of couples have experienced at least one major jealousy incident. But here's the kicker. Only 30% of those couples actually talk about it calmly. The rest, they explode, shut down, or do something they regret. Jay was about to join that 70%. Back to the party. Jay put down the spatula, walked over slowly. His face didn't look angry. That's the scary part. He was smiling. The same smile he used when he was about to cry, but didn't want anyone to know. He tapped the guy on the shoulder and said, "Hey, she's with me." The guy looked at Mia. Mia looked at Jay, and then the guy just shrugged and walked away. No fight, no drama, just an awkward shuffle back to the drink table. But the explosion hadn't happened yet. It was just getting ready. Jay grabbed Mia's arm, not hard, but firm, and he whispered in her ear, "Not yet?" "What the hell does that mean?" Mia pulled back, confused. She didn't see the problem. "I don't have a boyfriend, Jay. I have you." There's a difference. And that's when the first crack became a crater. Jay didn't yell. That would have been easier. Yelling is quick. It burns hot and dies fast. Instead, he went quiet. Dead quiet. The kind of quiet that fills a room like smoke. He drove her home in complete silence. No music, no radio. Just the sound of the road and the weight of two words hanging between them. When they got to her apartment, Mia asked, "Are you coming in?" Jay looked at her, really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. And he said, "Not yet." He used her own words against her. And that was the moment everything shattered. Mia started crying. Not loud sobbing, just tears rolling down her cheeks while she stood there in the doorway. She finally understood. To Jay, "Not yet" didn't mean maybe. It meant you are not enough for me to commit right now. It meant I am keeping my options open. It meant I love you, but not enough to close the door. Jay drove away. He didn't go home. He just drove. For 2 hours, up the coast, past the city lights, until he found a parking lot overlooking the ocean. And he sat there. Just him and the sound of waves, and the replay of that whisper in his head. Here's what he realized. He wasn't just angry at Mia. He was angry at himself, because deep down, he knew she had never truly chosen him. She had just landed on him, like a bird that flies from branch to branch, never building a nest. He was just the branch she was sitting on right now. And that truth, that hurt way more than any lie. So what happened next? Jay didn't break up with her that night. He didn't call her the next morning either. He took 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of asking himself one question. Do I want to be someone's yes or someone's Not yet. On the fourth day, he showed up at her door. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept. He said, "Mia, I love you, but I can't be your not yet. I need to be your yes. If you can't give me that, then we're done." Mia cried again, but this time she didn't make excuses. She said, "You're right. I've never said yes to anyone. I just fall into relationships. But I don't want to fall into this one. I want to choose it." And for the first time in 2 years, she looked him in the eye and said, "Yes, you are my boyfriend. Not just right now. For real." They stayed together, but something changed. Jay stopped acting like he owned her, and Mia stopped acting like she had one foot out the door. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Here's the lesson. Not yet isn't always a red flag. Sometimes it's just fear. Sometimes it's a person who has never learned how to commit. But if you're on the receiving end of those 2 words, you have to ask yourself a hard question. Are you willing to wait for a yes that might never come? Or do you love yourself enough to walk away? Because here's the truth. The right person won't make you guess. The right person won't leave the door open for someone else. The right person will look at you and say yes. Not yet. Not maybe. Not later. Yes.